Vegetables can be nutritious and delicious, but oftentimes the frozen versions simply don't taste as good as the fresh ones. Simply put, there are certain veggies you should just absolutely never buy frozen. Instead, head to the produce section or a farmer's market. You'll be glad you did. Onions can take any dish and kick them up a notch instantly. They have such an intense flavor that you can't help but take another bite. Whether you eat them raw, pickled, or caramelized, it's basically impossible not to love onions. And since they're an essential ingredient in so many recipes, you'll want to have them on hand all the time. But when it comes to frozen onions, you should definitely leave them behind. While you might save a little bit of time if you get pre-diced onions, you're likely going to pay extra cash for those mere few minutes you're saving. Furthermore, it also simply won't taste as good as the fresh version. The texture will likely be too chewy and it won't have the pungency that you can expect from a fresh-cut onion. But if you want that delicious onion flavor but can't be bothered to chop, just throw a peeled onion into a food processor and it'll do the job for you. You won't even have to get out your cutting board. You can also buy some types of onion in bulk, a generally cheaper option. So you can save money and always have onions on hand without having to go frozen.
There are onions, Jim, and then there are nature! Onions with a kiss!
Love it or hate it, you can't deny that asparagus has an especially strong flavor. It tastes fresh and green with just the right amount of bitterness and bite, which is why it's so popular during spring and summer, when it's as fresh as can be in many regions. But if you're not buying it during the warmer months, you may wonder if it's a better idea to buy it frozen. We're here to tell you not to do that, especially if you actually like asparagus. While freezing shouldn't affect the flavor of asparagus too much, the freezing process will change the texture and consistency. One of the best parts of biting into a piece of asparagus is its snap and bite, but when it's frozen, that just won't happen. The thing is, frozen asparagus will get soft and mushy after you cook it. If you love to cook your veggies down into mush, then frozen asparagus may just be the way to go, though we urge you to try it a different way. But if you like it on the brighter, less cooked side, you'll definitely want to stick to the fresh stuff.
It's not asparagus, it's asparagus.
Another vegetable that gets mixed reviews is the humble broccoli. It's super healthy and it has a strong flavor that'll make you swoon if you love a crunchy vegetable in a salad, soup, or just about anything else. Unless, of course, you decide to buy your broccoli frozen. It's nice to get broccoli florets that are already chopped up and ready to go, as it can save you a lot of prep time. Cutting into a huge head of broccoli can certainly be a big pain when you're just trying to get dinner on the table. However, you're going to be selling yourself short if you always settle for the frozen stuff. Part of what most people like about broccoli is that crunch and snap. That's what makes your veggies truly taste fresh. But you can't expect that same texture when you choose frozen broccoli. Instead, you'll get the same mushy texture you'll find with frozen asparagus, although broccoli does tend to hold up a little bit better. Sure, it might be a good way to get more veggies in your meal, and it's true that choosing frozen broccoli is going to offer you the same amount of nutrition as its fresh counterpart. But when it comes to actually liking how your food tastes, we suggest that you go fresh instead. Here's the thing, we actually love keeping frozen spinach around. You can buy it pre-frozen, or you can freeze leftovers if you don't think you're going to use all of it before it goes bad. And then you can add your frozen spinach to pretty much anything that could use a boost of veggies. If you're making a soup, throw some spinach in the mix. If you're concocting a pasta dish, add some spinach. If you're mixing up a smoothie, toss in some spinach. You get the picture. If you set your mind to it, you can add spinach to just about any dish. Any cooked dish, that is. If you opt for frozen spinach, you're going to have to cook it. This isn't a vegetable that you can thaw and use afterward, so if you're including spinach in a salad or any other cold dish, you'll want to pay a visit to your produce section instead of the frozen food aisle. That way, you can ensure you're getting the freshest flavor possible and you'll avoid the droopy, soggy situation that would occur if you picked the frozen stuff. The same is true for most other leafy vegetables that you would include in a salad, like lettuce or arugula. The water count of these veggies is simply too high for them to be frozen effectively.
Eat this spinach!
If there's one frozen vegetable you've been seeing more and more over the past few years, it's probably cauliflower. You can buy it in the big chunks or florets that you'll often see in similarly frozen bags of broccoli. There's also a good chance that you'll see some riced cauliflower in your supermarket's frozen section. We'll let you make your own decision about that, but personally, we prefer the real thing. One thing is certain, we're not going to be buying frozen cauliflower florets anytime soon. The texture of this vegetable is clearly a little unusual, and when it's frozen, it gets even stranger. Frozen cauliflower often has a rubbery texture. Furthermore, the florets can start to fall apart, leaving you with tiny pieces of cauliflower instead of healthy-sized chunks. We don't have to tell you that it doesn't exactly sound mouth-wateringly delicious. If you want to enjoy cauliflower, you're better off getting some fresh ones from the produce section. Even if it's not your favorite veggie, if you cook it right, you may just be surprised to discover how delicious it can be. Yet another vegetable that's better fresh is the humble Brussels sprout. This is one veggie that tastes great when it's roasted, with a crispy exterior and tons of spices and seasonings. It's even better if it's sliced before it's roasted, which frees up more of the surface area for even more crispiness and flavor. But when you roast frozen Brussels sprouts, there's no getting around the fact that they're probably going to turn out mushy. That's because all that liquid from the ice soaks into them, making it next to impossible to achieve the crisp flavor and texture you really want. If you insist on eating frozen Brussels sprouts, you should remember to never thaw them before you cook them. That's practically guaranteed to result in the mushiest sprouts you've ever tasted. Instead, cook them on high directly out of the freezer, and don't forget to use plenty of olive oil as well. Usually, when we advise against buying frozen vegetables, it all comes down to taste and texture. After all, those are the qualities that are bound to change when you freeze just about any food. But with carrots, it's a different situation altogether. While frozen carrots aren't known for being notoriously tasty, they aren't bad if you just want something colorful to throw into a stir-fry. But alas, if you do this, you'll be getting fewer nutrients than if you were to cook them fresh. A 2015 study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry observed that iron levels were lower in frozen carrots than they were in fresh ones. Since iron carries oxygen to your muscles, this is an important nutrient to make sure you're getting enough of. And iron deficiency is all too common, especially in athletes and other active people. Therefore, if you want to make sure you get the most nutrients out of every bite you take, you're better off buying fresh carrots. And it's also worth noting that when carrots are stored properly, they can last a long time in the fridge. They're also inexpensive, even when you opt for organic, so it's a reliable fresh veggie to always have on hand. Lima beans are quite possibly every child's least favorite vegetable, and we don't blame them. The taste takes some getting used to, which is probably why adults tend to like them more than kids. If you yourself don't particularly like lima beans, that may be because you've mostly been eating frozen ones. Unfortunately though, fresh lima beans aren't something you see at every local grocery store, which is a shame because this is another veggie that you should never buy frozen. Lima beans tend to get grainy and dried out when they've been frozen, which is hardly appetizing. So this is another example in which you're better off going to your local farmer's market and buying fresh. If you're wondering what to do with them once you've bought them, there are tons of amazing recipes online that will give you some new cooking ideas. Who knows, you may end up falling in love with this much maligned veggie. If there's one vegetable you will find frozen more than any other, it has to be potatoes. In fact, some grocery stores have a special section just for frozen potatoes. They come in all forms: French fries, tater tots, hash browns, and everything in between. We do love that frozen potatoes make things so easy to prepare. After all, who has time to make French fries from scratch at home? But at the same time, it must be said that if you want the best tasting potatoes out there, frozen is just not the way to go. That's because, like so many other vegetables, the texture of potatoes changes when they've been frozen. You might be tempted to sacrifice the texture of a fresh potato for the sake of convenience occasionally, but you should know that they're simply not going to taste the same as fresh potatoes. Luckily, as with carrots, it generally isn't too hard to keep fresh potatoes stocked in your house. And if you always have some around, there's a good chance that you're going to use them. They're also incredibly cheap, so you can buy a huge bag without breaking the budget. That's certainly what we recommend if you just have to have your potatoes on the regular.
Potatoes! Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew.
There's nothing quite like a nice bell pepper. No matter what color you prefer, pretty much everyone can get down with this veggie that's packed full of vitamin C. That's no doubt reflected in the frozen vegetable section at your local grocery store. There are always tons of frozen products with peppers in them, from soup mixes to stir-fry blends to just plain frozen bell peppers on their own. But are they worth your time and money? In our opinion, no. Frozen bell peppers and fresh bell peppers are practically two completely different vegetables. While frozen bell peppers aren't bad per se, they have none of that delicious crunch that you can expect from the fresh bell variety. The texture just changes too much when they've been frozen. Many frozen peppers also tend to lose their flavor. Plus, you may only be able to find certain colors of bell pepper, which is a bit of a letdown for the look of your meal. Fresh peppers can be expensive, but if they're among your favorite veggies, you should splurge a bit instead of going for the frozen ones. The same would be true for other peppers like jalapenos, though you likely won't see those in the frozen section quite as much as bell peppers.
Oh! Oh! Do you smell that? Oh, it smells like pepper up in here.
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.